any time he liked, with no one being any the wiser. Why would he need to stage a rather clumsy robbery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayfield. If Monsieur Poirot has any suspicions, I should like all my belongings searched.
No, Monsieur Carlyle. I cast not the aspersions. It is a small problem merely, but a problem that will agitate the little gray cells most adequately.
Sex crimes?
Yep.
Take a look at this. Girl hanged herself from the bed. Name's Layla Briggs. Neighbor said she was generally a quiet, good tenant. Looks like she killed herself.
Anything she didn't pierce?
Someone stealing her must set off metal detectors.
Not to mention the burn marks.
Could be self-inflicted. We got reasons to believe this is anything other than a suicide?
Yeah, the robe was tied over her folded arms.
Well, that's not impossible. I mean, I'm no Houdini, but, how hard is that?
Wait a minute, the robe was open. Did you open it?
I was told it was a suicide. I had to examine the body.
Did any of your men disturb the body?
My first instinct was suicide. The second I thought different, I called you guys.
A video on my chess series where beginners are going to try and progress their game into more better standard than beginner games. What we're going to cover this week is reviewing a game that you've already played. This is a good tactic for murder game, or any part of the game really, but it's more handy when you come into murder games. So why would looking at a game that you've already played help you to be able to play better in future games in the middle game? Reason why is because often you'll play similar moves, similar games, and if you remember what you did before or what you didn't do before, it will prepare you for what happens again. And this brings up one of the classic quotes, sayings. We've learned far more from losing than we do from winning. And one of these favorite quotes is, we learn from failure much more than from success. We often discover what we would do by finding out what we will not do. And probably he who never made a mistake never made a discovery, by Samuel Smiles. So, I have a game that I recently played on Red Hot Pawn against the player Popeye the Sailor, the Russian player. I believe I mentioned him previously before. His grade is currently in the 1500s. I'm in the 13. Really, he outclassed me a little bit, but I had a in this game I gave him a bit of a struggle, but really not much. So when you come to a chess board at the end of the game, you gotta enter the mind of a detective, hence the intro. And it can be any detective that you like. It could be Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, Midsummer Murders, Inspector Morse, you name it. The way you've got to approach a game that you've already played is in the same way that a detective would come across a murder scene. So at the end of the game, this is the crime scene. A person's been killed, namely a king, and you've got to discover the motive, how it happened, why it happened, how it could have been stopped, and how you can stop it again from next time. And there's always ways that you could have done better, like moves that you could have done better than what you did before. It is easy to look at the games that you win at because it's more pleasant, but just because you win doesn't mean you didn't make mistakes. And you got to remember, you won because your opponent made more mistakes than you did, it doesn't mean that you didn't make any mistakes. But it's important to go over the games that you lose. Now, the person I played on this game is a much better player than me. I could have beaten him, but I needed to pay more attention than I gave it to. And also, he was just a much better player. I was outclassed, in my opinion. So, what we're going to do, several ways that you can do about it. Yes, you can just put the game into a chess computer like this, and you'll get this kind of response from a computer.
D5, E3, knight, C.
Hang on, 1 second. Okay, so see, it gives you standard openings like
D4, queen's pawn opening line. The queen's pawn opening move is somewhat slower than the popular E4 because white will not be able to castle for 3 more moves. Its advantage is that it gives white more control over tactical surprises and often provides more lasting initiative and pressure.
and
D5, queen's pawn game 1, D4, D5, opening line. Black answers symmetrically, challenging the center directly. E3, queen's pawn game 1, D4, D5, opening line. This is the start of the stonewall attack, a black defense adapted to white's needs. With 2 E3, white makes difficult the development of the C1 bishop, later playing bishop D2, E1, H4. But that will come much later in the game, and require the movement of the F-pawn, which is part of the stonewall attack plan. In general, white creates more problems for himself than for black.
yeah, I've come across this opening, this stonewall, a lot in my past and future. I'd like to learn how to play it, but it's something that's not for this weak-hearted.
Knight F6, queen's pawn game 1, D4, D5, opening line.
Okay, so everything so far is normal. Okay, so this is the first move that's out of the opening.
C4, out of opening book. Bishop D3 would have been in the stonewall attack opening line.
You see, what they're going to do is, Popeye tried to do, convert it into the Queen's Gambit, instead of doing this, stonewall. But it's the one combination of moves. And they're planning to do the Queen on to C2, Bishop to D3, and attack on the H7 diagonal. Oops. I transposed it. Apparently this is the Indian defense, but normally when you play the Queen's Gambit, E3 is the Queen's Gambit declined. And this is the first move out of white that doesn't follow a traditional opening line. This was a bad move. I mean, this is a good example of where the computer will tell you what it does. Like, it moves the bishop and makes way for the kingside castle. What it doesn't tell you...
Bishop D6 makes way for a castle to the kingside.
This is true. But what it doesn't tell you is all white's going to do is push the pawn on, and I'm going to be forced to move the bishop again. And that's going to be twice I'm going to have to move the bishop in the same number of moves, which is not good. I lose development, and I lose time. There's a number of better alternatives that I could do here. Instead of putting the bishop out there, I could have gone to knight to e4, because they do try to go for this, it's important to try and get a knight to that square as fast as possible. However, I realized he could have put the pawn to f3. However, I didn't think he would do that because he would want to get his knight to f3 instead. Because if he pushes the pawn to f3, the knight's only way out is for a decent square is to e2, blocking that bishop. He would have to get the bishop out and then the knight before he could castle. So instead of bishop to d6, this would have been something that's a lot better. I could have put my other bishop out to d7, or put the knight to c6, anything. So yeah, he comes out and attacks my bishop. And I take it back. And now he's ahead in development again. Here black castled, or I castled. It may not, I may have not had to castle this early. Sometimes it's often best to delay castling as long as possible, because while you delay, you keep your opponent guessing. You're always constantly thinking about, when is he going to castle? Is he going to castle kingside? Is he going to try and castle queenside? If you go ahead and do that for him, it clears it up, and there's nothing else to worry about. Instead of castling here, even though I'm in head of development because I got 2 pieces out to his 1, I could have carried on developing. The only reason why I didn't, because I figured if I put the knight or bishop out to d6 or d7, he's just going to push the pawn on. Granted, if I put the bishop out, I could have just taken back. So maybe that's something I could have done. So bishop to here.
Bishop.
And if he did come down to
c6,
here, I would take. And so if I did that, then he'd be free to do anything like this.
Bishop d3.
A lot better than, you know, I had options here. I castled too early. I didn't have to castle straight away. So he goes ahead and develops the piece, which is not bad. And I go ahead and develop the queen's knight. He clears the way to castle and gets his piece out. And also note, he did what I should have done, is delayed the castling. Exactly what I was saying. b6. This, I mean, yes, the reason why I did this was to get my queen's bishop active a little bit. Try and get him on the diagonals. But all this does is invite white to push the pawn onto c6. Before, he couldn't have done that because the pawn would have just taken. So that was kind of silly by me. That was bad play. And now the knight's trapped. It's got nowhere that it can do but going back to where it started. So the pawn to b6 was really bad. So that's another mistake by me. Instead of to b6, let's see what I could have done. Like, hell, I mean, I could have done c6. I could have done c6 followed by b5. The c6 would have stopped the knight coming to b5 or bishop. he probably would have castled, and I still would have gotten my what I want is my bishop active. So next is White's move, and he gets to the square that is key for this open. When you see your opponent do this type of game, it's a race between the two sides. Which E square gets? You either, if White can get the knight to this square and stay on that square, they're in much better position. If Black can get to that square first, he's better off.
Knight e5 protects White's pawn at c6 and blocks Black's pawn at e6.
And I go ahead with my plan. Because that bishop is way too strong. I know what he's going to do. Yes, this is a bad bishop. So, this is okay for me. I exchange a really strong, powerful bishop for a really bad bishop. And the bad option about this is the knight's on the side. He goes to b4, planning to come up and attack my knight. Bishop d5, just trying to push the knight away. And he attacks my knight. And again, for the second time, it goes back. So I've moved that piece 4 times, and it's ended right back up where it started. Not ideal, but given the circumstances, there wasn't much I could do. But you gotta remember, knights can go backwards. And remember that, because some people have a hard time. So he goes out to g4. He tries to start an attack. I go to a6. Trying to break up his pawns. Because he's got 3 pawns coming down at me, and best way to stop a pawn charge is shove a pawn in its way. He, for some reason, exchange. This is a bad idea. I don't know why. Let me think if I can remember why. Because I took back the knight with the pawn, gf6. I don't know why I didn't just take with the queen. But I had a feeling he was going to go... Well, yeah, that's not true. That's a lie. I figured he was going to go kingside, and I wanted a direct line of attack. I could see... My train of thought is that the queen side is getting bogged down. The pawns are past each other. That nothing's going to get through that. And we don't have 2 sides of bishops, and we've got the same coloured squared bishops, which normally would mean a draw, I believe. I can't remember now if it's opposite squared bishops or if it's coloured squared bishops. But the way that I could see an attack brewing up for black is opening that G file and using that as my way to, as a launching pad to get at an attack.
G takes f6, removes the threat on Black's king. Black wins a knight for a knight. Material is even.
Queen comes to a4. The reason why he did that was just because of a threat that he has here. It's not really much of a good one. To be honest, looking at it now, I don't remember why he came. Because he just gets pushed back. a5. And he goes right back. He wasted 2 moves. I pushed on to f5. Because I had double pawns, and it's best to make... They can become strong when you get them down the board. He pushes his pawn up to a4. Now those pawns are gridlocked. Now I carry on developing my side. Now, black's weakness here, my weakness, is the knight. It's blocking the way and the knight's trapped. He can't move anywhere. He's trapped at home, which is awkward and annoying, and it makes me cramped. He comes out to queen f3. Right now, white's weakness is the pawn on a4, because it only has one piece protecting it that can protect it. I go to king h8 to get off that file, and you can see you get a sense of what black's trying to do. I'm just trying to open up and come down the chimney on the king's side. And still, white hasn't castled, and he could do it anytime he wants to. But he knows what he's doing. He tries to do a partial pin, but the bishop's protected. If I move the bishop, I would lose the rook. Okay, so the computer sometimes gets a better... Okay. What it's saying is that the bishop to here
Bishop
would be slightly better. Let's see why. I didn't think of that, to be honest. What it does, it pins the knight against the king. If white takes, pawn takes, and not a bad idea. Bishop b4 pins the knight, and if he takes with the bishop, pawn takes bishop. I still like this. I mean, yes, that's nice, but I don't really see where that was going. The only alternative is this doubles up the pawns. I get another set of double pawns. I have to take back. Material still even here. Rook d1, rook a7. Oh, it's a partial pin. Okay, rook e7. Oh, it was saying to do g7 first. Rook takes... Oh, e takes d5. He does king f1. Why he didn't castle? Oh, he can't castle. That was the trick. I forgot. That was the whole reason why I went to rook e7. Rook e7 because I could see this opening up. That I knew he was going to take the pawn and I would have a discovered check. That's why he went to rook f1. Now his king's stuck in the middle and the rook's stuck in the corner, which is good. Now I went to g7. He comes out and attacks. Rook to e4. I'm planning to bring my rook to g4. Yeah, he now has a passed pawn because he took that one.
Knight takes b6, creates a passed pawn on b5, and isolates black's pawn at a5. White wins 2 pawns.
g4.
Rook g4 leads to c7, f6, rook c1, knight d7, c8, queen, knight takes b6, queen, c takes f5, knight takes a4, queen takes f6, rook takes g2, queen takes d6. Better is rook takes d4, leading to g3. Rook takes d1, check. Queen takes d1. Queen c3. Queen takes d6. f4. Queen takes f4. f6. c7. Queen d3, check. King g2, which gains a queen and a rook and loses a rook, a knight, and 2 pawns by comparison.
Okay. I disagree with the first line. I don't think I would let him have his queen. I don't think those two are likely scenarios, put it that way. I don't think he would just let me take the rook, for example. Well, then again, he has to, because if I went to d5,
g3. Rook takes.
no, hold on. I'm lost where I was. Rook d1. What the hell? Okay. g4. Now he does g3. Oh, and I do f4. Now if I... He's saying if... Okay. Oh, he was saying instead of moving the rook here, rook takes d4. I disagree with that. He wouldn't have played g3. If I do takes... Instead of... If I went here...
Rook.
He's not going to go ahead and play g3. He doesn't have to do anything. He can do this.
c7.
So if I went ahead and take that...
Rook.
Oh, yes he is, because look, queen takes rook.
Queen.
And then queen here.
Queen. King.
No, he won't do that. Back one. He would go here. Oops. Ugh. Okay, whatever. It's not gonna happen, basically. Okay, so g3. And I try to attack that pawn with f4. Which could be a mistake too.
f4 leads to c7, f5, queen b7, knight d7, c8, queen, knight takes b6, queen takes g7, check, rook takes g7, queen takes f5, f takes g3, h takes g3, knight takes a4. Better is f6, leading to queen takes f5, rook e8, king g2, rook g5, rook h e1, rook d8, queen e6, d5, queen e8, check, queen g8, queen takes g8, check, king takes g8, which gains a queen and a pawn and loses a knight and 2 pawns by comparison.
Okay, this is one of the benefits or disbenefits of a computer program, is because no human mind is going to be able to see all of those combinations. They focus on one line, and that's where it can help. Okay, so g4, c4. Say knight c. Okay, saying c7.
Knight c4 leads to f takes g3, h takes g3, f6, knight takes d6, queen e7, queen d5, rook 4, g6, rook e1, queen c7, rook h5. Better is c7 leading to f5, queen b7, knight d7, c8, queen, knight takes b6, queen takes g7, check, rook takes g7, queen takes f5, f takes g3, h takes g3, knight takes a4, which gains a queen and loses a knight and 2 pawns in comparison.
I kind of agree with that one. So he went ahead and attacked the pawn. I'm trying to force my way down the g file. H takes g3. Knight takes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and I'll upload it for you to read later if you're interested. F5, rook h3, because now if he takes the pawn, my rook's gonna come out after the king, which he does.
G takes f4, allows an enemy passed pawn on h7 and isolates own pawn at f4 and own pawn at f2. Leads to rook g1, check, king e2, queen c2, check, rook d2, rook e8, check, queen e3, rook takes e3, check, rook takes e3, queen takes a4, c7, queen takes b5, check, rook d3, rook g8, c takes b8, queen, rook takes b8, knight b3, queen h5, check, f3. Much better is c7 leading to knight d7, knight c6, rook g5, knight d8, knight b6, queen b7, f takes g3, queen takes b6, g2, check, king g1, which gains a queen and 2 pawns and loses a rook and a pawn by comparison.
Well, that makes me happy. What you just saw is exactly what I did up to a point, and then I blew it. Which makes me not so happy. G1 checks the king, E2, exactly like you saw. Queen C2. This is my whole idea of the attack. Rook E8. Queen's forced to come out here. We'll take, and then A4.
Queen takes a4, forks white's knight and white's pawn at b5. Black wins a queen and a pawn for a rook.
And this is the mistake because I didn't take the other pawn. But he had the check, which just Master said he shouldn't have done. G7. Now he protects that pawn, but he loses the knight. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the knight. I had to. I mean, it was a behind material. It was a free piece. What the hell? I missed a mate.
b6. White steps into the forced mate.
I knew it.
Much better is D5, B6 leads to Queen H5, check, F3, Rook G3, Rook D3, Queen H1, King D2, Queen A1, F5, Rook G1, Rook G8, check, King takes G8, King E3, Queen E1, check, King F4, Queen H4, check, King E3, Rook E1, check, King D2, Queen F2, check, King C3, Rook B1, Rook D1, Queen E3, check, King C2, Queen B3, check, King D2, Rook takes D1, check, King E2, Queen C2, check, King E3, Queen D2, check, and checkmate. This was potentially White's most costly error, but White escaped. Black did not see the forced mate opportunity and eventually resigned.
Oh, forgive me, I did not see that 20+ move force mate. That was disappointing, though. I should have seen it. The queen should have gone to the other side for check. I didn't even see that part. I was too focused on the pawns. Damn it. Oh well. That's why we review games for. A6.
Queen A6, check. Black's asleep at the switch and doesn't see the forced mate. Much better is Queen H5, check, leading to F3, Rook G3.
We don't need to see that again. Oh dear. A 14 move forced mate. E3. Okay, it's gonna keep saying it gives me a forced mate. I knew I should have. Mate in 8. Oh, come on.
Rook E1, check. Black has a mate in 8, checks White's king. Leads to King F3, Queen F1, Rook B7, check, King H6, Rook takes H7, check, King takes H7, F5, Queen H3, check, King F4, Queen H4, check, King F3, Queen E4, check, King G3, Rook G1, check, King H2, Queen H1, and mate.
Nice. I am so pissed off that I fucked up.
Queen A3, check. Black's asleep at the switch and doesn't see the forced mate. Much better is Queen F1, leading to Rook B7, check. King H6, Rook takes H7, check. King takes H7, F5, Queen H3, check. King.
He wouldn't do Rook H7, he just gives up a rook for nothing. That makes no sense. King G2. Man, I'm so annoyed. I should have won the game. Uh-oh.
D5. Danger. Leads to Queen A6, King G3, Queen F1, F3, Queen E1, check, Rook F2, Rook C2, King G4, Queen.
No longer sees a mate. Queen A5, trying to attack the pawn and the rook. Yeah, he hangs the pawn, but he gets the check. And he does B7, rook B1. So I got a rook on that line to protect it. Basically, I just was not aggressive and I wasn't looking. I was too focused by his attack on the pawns here and I didn't see over the other side of the board. That's where freaking box fishing came into it. I was too focused on one area of the board. That square was in my blind spot. H6. Steps into another mate.
Rook c8. White steps into the forced mate. Much better is Rook e2. Rook c8 leads to Queen b6. Rook takes h7. Check. King takes h7. Rook c2. Queen g1. Check. King h3. Rook b3. Rook c.
I don't know why White is so intent on sacrificing a rook for. I know he would never do that. No person would do that. B2. G3. Yikes.
Queen d5. Yikes! Leads to b8. Queen. Rook takes b8. Rook takes b8. King g6. Rook f8. Queen d4. Rook e6. Check. King g7. Rook f e8. Queen g1. Check. King h4. Queen h1. Check. King g4. Queen g1. Check. King h5. d5. Much better is Queen b6 leading to Rook c1. Queen f2. Check. King g4. Queen g2. Check. King h4. King g6. Rook g7. Check. King takes g7. b8. Queen. Rook takes b8. Rook c2. Queen takes c2. King h3. Queen f5. Check. King g3. Rook.
Those moves are ridiculous. Again, White would not just hand and give up a rook like that. But I messed up. Man, that pisses me off. Cool my emotions down. Yeah. And that's how we got to the murder scene. Because I didn't look carefully enough. And I wasn't aggressive enough that I missed. And I made way too many mistakes. I could have beat him.
Rook b5. Check. Checks black's king. Black resigns.
Well. I had the black pieces, by the way. I don't know why it flipped them. But that is one of the reasons why it's important to go over games like this. Because you see the mistakes that you make. And after you go through a course of different games, you'll start to see the patterns that you keep making, so you know what to work on. And then you see where you could have won the game, and it is extremely infuriating and frustrating to know that I was 8 moves away from winning. And something like that I should have seen. Personally, myself, 6 moves away. It's just 2 moves further than my minimum. I should have seen that. I shouldn't have been distracted by his freaking pawns. Oh, dear. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print... I'm going to print that out, and I'm going to upload it. So if anyone wants to go through it on their own time, maybe Popeye would like to see it, then by all means. Don't know what that means yet. Okay. Okay, no error boxes that time. And there we go, I hear it printing now. So I'll have that uploaded, scanned and uploaded for you to see. It'll be in PDF. But it's... when you come to review one of your games, what you need to do is, like when you're writing down your games, if you get to a position that you get stuck at where you didn't know what to do, mark it on your score sheet. So when you come to review the game, you can go back to that position and look at it again. Write down on a piece of paper, separate piece of paper, what your move is that you made, and then follow, see if there's any other potential moves that you would have done. Write that down on a separate piece and then compare notes after you review. You want to go through all of the possibilities, secondaries, and make a good comprehensive list and see what things that you could have done that would have been better. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so as I was trying to say, one tip that I found on chess.com from a poster called KIKVOS, Kickforce, is pick one position from the game, a position where you was in doubt about what to do, which is what I said before, that you're unsure of afterwards. First, try to write down what your thoughts about it were during the game. Why you played what you played. Put those notes away. Next day, set up on a board. First, think about it for 10 minutes without moving the pieces. Like a crime scene, you gotta see what it is. If you think of a concrete line, a reason why some move won't work, threats, possible ideas of what to do, write it down. Also look for candidate moves. Write all of them down. Try to put in words what is going on in the position. What's each side trying to do? Is that necessarily the only thing they could do, or are there other things that they could try as well? After 10 minutes, start moving the pieces. Check your written down lines. Look for new ideas. After 15 more minutes, you should have a good idea of what's going on, what works, what doesn't, and whether the move you played was good or not. Take 5 minutes to check the most tactical lines. On a computer, there may have been hidden tricks. Now take your notes and compare. Repeat after your next serious game. Basically, you got to repeat all of this before your game. And eventually you'll get good at this, and it will be something that you're good at reviewing and that you're good at doing. This is why I am trying to use the analogy of crime detectives, because the same way that a detective goes about trying to solve a crime is the same reason and exactly the same way that you've got to be when you come to look at your game. When you come back the next day, you're looking at a crime scene. A king has been killed. You've got to find the chalk outline, analyze the position, and just sort it out from there. Okay? And if you come to find yourself being biased when you review games that you've won, always sit down with someone. Like if you've got a friend, or if you go to a chess club, take your game and share it with someone. If they don't mind, just sit down and say, do you mind if we go over again that I played? I mean, it's better and you get a more honest answer, because they're not going to care, because it's a game that they didn't even play. where your judgment may be clouded because you won that game and all happy about it. But they'll challenge your thinking, and that's how you got to approach it. Every move that you play, challenge your thinking, challenge why you did what you did when you did it, and then you should be better off. Okay? Alright guys, that's going to be it for this week. Hope you enjoy it. Have a good one.